Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Craftsmen Collective. As always, Rock here, and you may be unfamiliar with the terrain that we're looking at now, but it is indeed home to our new base. So we went out wandering. We were pretty much in dire need of a new just a home in general. The spawn village is nice, but it's not really a home. It's very constricting, and we kind of need a little bit of space in order to do kind of a lot of the things that we want to do, or the things that we will want to do at some point in the future. I had recorded the adventure to go searching for a home before. I had also recorded an episode of setting up stuff, or a bunch of video of setting up stuff, but unfortunately the video was not really that usable. It was a little bit stuttery and it had cuts in it and stuff, so fortunately we missed out on that. But I have gone about setting stuff up, give some geological idea of some of the stuff around. What's that over there? Actually, I haven't seen that before. Looks like there's a village over there. I actually didn't know that. That's good to know. It looks like there's a village over there. We have a nice mountain ridge over there with the red cobblestone. This biome itself is an extreme hills biome, which means we're going to have the possibility of finding emeralds in it. And if we come over here into our cave, we've dubbed the Rock Cave. Very, very original, very creative. But we've started setting up some things in here. So we got a little bit of a grassy floor. With time, we will develop the cave a bit more and setting up, a nice grassy floor probably around it with some trim around it. Kind of my guess is, or my thought is with inspiration from the last server with our tunnels. We're kind of gonna go for a theme similar to that. Not exactly, but similar. So we got a nice little floor. Of course, we have our book stand, a notebook. We've done quite a bit of exploring through various Mystcraft worlds. And for those of you who aren't unaware of the current iteration of Mystcraft, the things that are part of it, or for those people who saw the first season, the Mystcraft worlds are a lot more dangerous now. They have a lot more hazards to the main surface area. So, for example, if you create a world and you go in, there's a bunch of negative effects or things that can happen to you while on the surface. So, for example, we have our desert world here. I think this one applies a nausea effect, but you can have a lot of various different effects. You can have nausea applied to you. You can have hunger 3 applied to you. You can have slowness. You can have mining fatigue. You can randomly catch on fire. TNT will randomly explode in some instances. So some of the worlds you can get a couple various effects, negative effects applied to you while on the surface. But if you go underground, you won't, of course, obviously, suffer from those effects. So through the various worlds that we've had to explore, we've run into a lot of things. But through the exploration, we were able to get terrain features. We were able to get the crystals. There we go. The crystals modifier for books, which means we are able to set up Mystcraft portals for the mob spawner farm, similar to the Blaze farm that we had on the Season 1 server. So we got our book receptacles, we got our crystals, and the only thing left to do is really set up the area for our various spawner farms. With the addition of like Twilight Forest, for example, it gives us additional spawners that we can use, and with the addition of the portal gun, with the addition of the portal gun, we're actually able to bring the various spawners from other worlds into the overworld. So we will be able to bring blaze spawners from the Nether through Mystcraft gate portals into the overworld. And if, for example, we'll be able to bring, I think there's creeper spawners, enderman spawners, there's like little gnome or various other types of spawners from Twilight Forest that we'll be able to bring into the overworld. And we'll be able to set up kind of a large-scale hub of various different farms that you can either farm XP off of or you can farm resources off of. So that's one nice thing that we'll be able to do with that. Other than that, we've been doing a lot of various little things. We have ourselves a little enchanting area we've done some enchanting with. We do have this nice efficiency 4 Unbreaking 3 pick that we enchanted. It's just about bit the dust, so we're going to wait to get some levels and repair it with some diamonds. We also have this nice Unbreaking and Fortune pick that we've been using to, get redstone, get coal, get additional diamonds from the diamond ore blocks that we had. Of course, some minor crappy enchants. We had the Silk Touch before. Let's see. I've been messing around a little bit with the Buildcraft stuff and engines and thermal expansion as well. So we do have a very ghetto system set up with Stirling engines, the pulverizer, the induction smelter, and we've done quite a bit of pulverizing and smelting with some of the ores that we did get. Now, one of the worlds that we did find in Mystcraft was a cave world, which itself was really awesome. It pretty much is just an underground world cave. Think of it kind of like the Nether, but in the overworld. And we found a couple of stacks of iron blocks. We found a bit of gold and such, and copper, of course. Then we put it all in here, and we gained a lot more. We pretty much gained double the resources from the stacks we get, because the pulverizer turns, for example, 1 iron ore into 2 iron dust, and then in the induction smelter it turns 1 iron dust gets cooked into an iron bar or an iron ingot. So we used a little bit of this, but essentially we only had half of this in ores, and we were able to cook it up into pretty much double the profit. So that's one really cool thing. I will get into this a bit more in some later episodes, maybe a couple episodes from now and such, when I've gotten settled into some of my things. But for now, it's kind of a unknown that we gotta play around with. Like, even this right here took me quite a while of playing around with to get that to actually work. As you can see from here, we tried we constructed a whole bunch of different engines and tried a bunch of different engines, and it took a bit of work to get what we have working. Let's see. Additionally, we started the construction on the spawner farm itself. Hello. Get rid of this guy right here. Also, turn that down. It's nice to listen to some music while you're kind of just not doing a whole lot. But over there, down under earth, is where we started the spawner farm, and if you were paying attention, you would have seen a little portal over here that leads right into it. Bam. There we go. Now I've started the construction of the area a bit, trying to get a nice little look to it. I'm not 100% set in stone on it, but I do like some of the features that I have. So like these corner features, we got some glowstone back there with water. I kind of like this right here, and it's in each corner, but I kind of like this right here. So I'm probably going to stick with that. The ceiling, I'm not sold on. And then these hallways, I'm not sold on the wall designs. But it's something I'm going to play with a bit off camera, most likely. And we'll go from there. But we moved our spawners into here. And then once we set up the areas, we'll move the spawners into those areas. And we'll be good. Now, what I'm thinking is, for inside the areas, we'll have the individual areas, individual branch offs that have the various spawn areas. I'm thinking of having, kind of each tunnel be color coded in some way, or material coded in some way, so you can kind of maybe a board out here that kind of directs you towards where you need to go for a specific thing. So, for example, we have the nether brick cobble section would be blaze, for example, or the nether brick red cobblestone area might be skeletons. That's an idea. I'm not entirely set in stone on it. I might change it up. I might just keep all the areas the same colors. I still have to play with it a bit. So I think that's kind of it for this area. Now, the construction of the actual rooms themselves, I'm going to jump into our single player test world, and we'll kind of hash out an idea of how we want to set up at least a one spawner itself, and then kind of discuss through how we're going to set up the area. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go jump in the single player world, and I'll see you in a second. Alright, so we are back in our single player test world, and we have ourselves, we moved our MC edited a skeleton spawner in here for demonstrational purposes. Now, we're going to first up set up a brief kind of get the spacing right. Now, typically when you have a spawner, mobs will spawn in a 8x8x3 or so radius of centered on the spawner, which it's offset by 1. So first things first is we're going to set up a 7x7x2 area, and then we'll set up the next layer. Now this works additionally in non-modded servers. So if you're setting up a blaze farm or a skeleton farm, you can use this kind of setup to get the right kind of sizing that you need. So let's set up this. So right here we will have a 7x7. Then we will place some glowstone here. This would be used to disable the mob spawns, so that mobs can't spawn while you're working with it. And place in these last couple sides. Okay, and now the last thing is we have to add the one more corner, or we have to expand one corner. Now there are a few different ways to figure out which corner you need to expand. So there's 3 that I know of. The first of which is by looking at the glowstone texture. Now if you look at the glowstone texture right here, you see this large gem right here. That is the corner that you would have to that's one way to know which corner you have to expand. Another way is if you hit F3 and you look at the facing. We have right now, you can see it's 2 north and then we have 1 west. The northwest corner is additionally the other way to know which corner to expand. And then the third way, the third way was if you look at your X and your Z coordinates, the direction, if you pretty much the direction you're moving in. If the X and Z are both decrementing, that is also a way to know which corner you have to do in. So if you see we're at negative 2027x, we move in this way. It increases the negative x, which means it's decrementing. And then we also have our z of 1580, and we move and it goes down to 1579. So we know that this corner right here, through the 3 ways that we described, is the corner that we have to expand. So we expand this out, this extra 1, and this will give us a 8 by 8 by 2 area. Now additionally to that, we will put on, or not additionally, but with that, we will start to build a frame. Now we want to give an additional 1 block of space below this little 2 by 8 by 8 of airspace, and that should guarantee that mobs will be able to spawn within that area. It'll give it the highest efficiency of spawns. So we'll start by setting up the frame of the area. Okay, with that we will add, let's see, we're going to use glass panes for this, for example. We'll go to 3, and we'll do, I'm trying to remember, this is kind of based off of it's pretty much based off of Etho design from about a year ago. So I'm trying to remember. We go right here. Yeah, we'll go right here. Okay. And for this, we're going to be using glass panes, but of course, normal glass blocks work just as well. It's more or less preference on what you'd want to use. Okay, no, I think it was the opposite way around. Either way, it doesn't necessarily matter how you design the area, as long as you give it 1 additional space above this 8 by 8 by 2 and 1 additional space below. So with that, we'll go something like that, maybe. Okay. I think for this we'll just go with that. Okay. Now let's go in and as we're in creative, we don't necessarily need this frame inside it, so we're just gonna go through and remove it for now. In survival, you're probably best to keep the frame here until you're ready to let the mobs spawn, for safety reasons, unless you don't mind being bothered by the spawners, of course. But we're just going to remove this for now. I'll get rid of that. And we will build around our current frame that we have. I'm trying to not hit the spawner. I'd be super sad if I hit that. Alright, so with that, we will add another frame down here. Okay, that will give us a nice view of the spawner. Now, of course, we will do the same on all of the sides. So let me set that up real quick, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so now that we have our frame set up with the glass panes, we need to add a couple additional things. Now we need to add 1 more layer above the current frame, and this is to make sure that we have the additional extra airspace above our spawner. And so with this is where we would kind of build into. Now we would most likely use some type of redstone lamp in here. to be an on-off switch. For those of you who didn't see the Blaze farm in the previous server, it had an on-off switch, and that is kind of what I'm going to be doing with all of the farms in this spawner farm area, as we will have various on-off switches for all of the spawner areas. So I'm not sure if we'll necessarily do it like this, but we will have on-off switches. Now, although that looks like it would be enough to light up the whole area, it unfortunately won't be enough. At least from experience with the previous server, it would be close to enough for a basic overworld spawner, but for something like a blaze spawner, it isn't enough, because a blaze spawner has a much higher threshold for lighting requirements. I think an overworld spawner has to have at least, if pretty much the light level is, I think, less than 7 or 7 or below, mobs can spawn. Blaze, I believe, is a light level of less than 11. So it's a bit weird. So the next thing we need is these crystal blocks, which is the Mystcraft block that allows us to make gates that we can transport our mobs from one area to another. So for those who didn't see the first season of my Let's Play on the Craftsmen Collective, pretty much this previous server, we used these Mystcraft portals to transport mobs from pretty much from this pin into a centralized trough location. So with this, we'll have an additional extra layer down here, and on this layer is where we're going to be putting our redstone lamps to give additional light up here. And we will probably set it up in the same fashion as the ceiling. There we go. And we'll just throw this in here for looks. And there we go. So essentially, we'll have some type of on-off switch. We flick the switch, it will then turn on the glowstone in the floor as well as the ceiling, turning it off. Now flick the switch again, of course, it will turn it on and allow for mobs to spawn. Now with the crystal block, I'm going to, let me grab a couple. Let me try to remember. Where's the Mystcraft? Is there? Oh, I gotta remember. Let's see. Diamond. Go for use. Okay, we're just gonna go like this. There we go. So, diamond. Use. Use. Okay. We need this right here. Link modifier. Okay. Link modifier, and we'll need a linking book. Actually, I think I have to craft it. We'll go for a book. Okay, so we got our link modifier. Bam. We need to game mode ourselves to survival. Okay. We will create a link right here. We'll also set this link to be an intralinking, which means we can link, this book will link to the same world. Okay, so now that we have that, we can get a, let's set ourselves back to creative, gray mode 1. Okay, now with that, we need a receptacle, I believe it's called. Crystal. Crystal. Let's just find the name of it. I think it's a book receptacle. That's what we're looking for. Book receptacle. Okay. So now that we have this linking book with this book receptacle, plop right here, plop our book into it, and of course it puts this portal down here. Okay. So now when the spawner is turned on, pretty much mobs will spawn and drop down. They'll drop into this portal and then get teleported over towards a centralized location. So essentially we'll set up a drop shaft of some type. The mobs will spawn, fall into the gate. They'll get sent into a drop shaft, and the way we'll set it up is that they'll drop the correct amount of blocks to put them at about a half a heart, and then the player can do, or the person that's farming the XP will be able to use either some type of potion to kill the mobs, or be able to just punch the mobs to kill them. So for like a skeleton farm, there'd be health potions there that the player would be able to kill the mob with, or kill the skeletons with, or they'll be able to just one-hit punch all the skeletons, for example. And so this essentially is a rough outline of what we'll be doing with our farms. Now, positioning wise, it's most likely going to be a 3 or possibly 4 spawners around, probably 4 at the very most. So there'll be some type of centralized position about 15 blocks separate or so. So we'll have some type of spawner there, some type of spawner there, some type of spawner there, and possibly maybe a spawner above. And then behind will be some type of gathering area where all the mobs that spawn will be gathered, and then you can kill them. So that's kind of, I think, the idea of how we're going to set up all of this. Now it comes to a matter of actually setting it up on the server and farming up the resources to do all of this. But this is what I will be working on, probably mostly off camera. I might do a little bit of on-camera stuff related to it. Most likely when I set up the first spawner area for the skeletons, and then after that we'll set up an area for the couple blaze spawners that we do have, and then after that it'll be mostly searching for spawners, and when we find spawners, repositioning them back over to, or not repositioning, relocating them back over towards our spawner farm area, and then if any other people relocate the spawners there themselves. But that's kind of the idea behind what we're going to be doing. It's very similar to the Blaze farm on the previous season server. The only exception is that we unfortunately do not have access to Redpower I guess at the moment. That was kind of the big thing that we used on the previous server to properly light up the Blaze farm. We'll see what we can do when it comes to the blaze farm. I might have to kind of add additional redstone lamps in various areas, but I'm pretty confident that something like this will work for a regular overworld spawner. But with that, I think I'm going to call it an end of an episode for today. Thank you for watching as always. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. And additionally, if you do have any redstone contraptions or devices that you would like to see built, I'm always looking for suggestions on what I can build or look into building on the server, as that is kind of my big thing that I like to do is redstone devices in general. So with that, I will catch you guys next time, and a good day.